Here it is. Found the audio. All right, where's the audio? Okay. Check, check. Waiting for my monitor to get there. Check, check. Okay. First, it was a very close shootout. How close was it?
It was incredibly close.
Let's put the smaller guy in.
So I think what wasn't clear, and I just confirmed this with Robert Zohn, but what wasn't clear was that the Sony A95L won, but the LG actually came in second by .004. And it was
in the overall?
yeah. And it was so close with the Samsung that they called it a tie.
Okay.
So people need to know that. You know, it was.
So we need to know it's a tie, or we need to know that.
According to the scoring, the LG came in second. But I guess because
Can I clarify that with someone?
Yeah, you have to clarify with Robert. But
Can you go ask him? Is he over there?
Yeah,
Go get him. Go get him. Put him on my camera. All right, guys. What do you guys think of the shootout? This is day one, obviously, and we're trying to find out who won second place. But were you guys surprised? The A95L, classy. What's up, baby? So, who is the official second place, Mr. Robert Zohn on camera? What's up, baby?
You know, it is so close, it almost doesn't matter, because it's really a tie for second
It's definitely going to matter to the people in the audience.
Splitting hairs,
Talk to me.
it's LG's G3 by a tiny bit.
Okay.
Is number two.
So, we're looking at the Sony A95L.
Who won by a decent margin, and then the next two are almost the same.
FOMO.
It's .04 difference.
Okay, so that's it.
But look at the
a little out of focus.
But look at the individual results, which I'm going to post tomorrow, because .04 is nothing. And what you may like about one versus the other could make a much better decision for you on what you buy. So like color, the qd-oled was better. But there are other areas that the G3 was significantly better. So look at the ballots, look at each element of image quality that we voted on, and select what's best for the way you view your TV.
So, I mean, if we're doing a proper commentary on it, the S95C improved over the S95B from last year.
Yes.
Clearly, the G3 improved over the G2, but
Yes.
the fact that we have it as the G3 perhaps edged out the improved S95C
It did.
means it's a really big leap.
Yes.
So that's excellent to hear.
Yes.
And then
It's nice to see MLA beat a qd-oled.
An improved qd-oled, so that
Yeah.
means they really did well. And then the A95L was ahead by quite a bit as far as the tally
Yeah,
scored.
it was easy to see that they were the
Once
winner.
it was all
It wasn't
add up.
quite a bit, but it won by a nice margin.
Yeah,
yes.
gotcha. All right, Robert.
Yeah, very
Well,
good.
excellent job. We're going to have another day tomorrow.
Yes,
You have
tomorrow's
any,
a big
do you
day.
have any thing to say to the camera while we're here, other than thank you to you for putting on an amazing show, and guys like John for doing all the calibration, and obviously D-Nice, or Dwayne, I should say.
Yes.
Classy. FOMO.
Jason Dustle.
FOMO, you want to grab Classy? But I think an amazing event. You did an amazing job as always.
Thank you. This is a lot of hard work, but guess what? We love it.
So even though we're only in the first day, definitely want to have Classy have a seat. Cecil, have a seat, bro. Now, you know, Classy is amazing, brilliant at what he does. He has an awesome channel, works very hard, very, very smart. But the dedication he put into getting the content ready, and all the meetings and all the work that is really behind the scenes, I want to really recognize Classy for, even though we have another day, and I'd love to get his thoughts just on. So I want to say thank you because you made things much easier. You did a fantastic job, but his organization of the content and all the dedication in the meetings. I mean, I think we say thank you from all of us, Classy. Amazing job. What are your feelings on it? What did you see? What are your thoughts on our first day of the Shootout?
I think most of it went well. I think I overdid it on the content because there were a couple times where the judges were like, "Okay, we're done with this category. Let's move on."
You're like, but I have one more frame to show you, and that's
No, it's
gonna
like
be
I have
the
3 more scenes.
Now look at him
lined up.
smile. Look at his smile.
No,
Classy has a
were-
good smile.
Yeah, we were short on time a bit, so we did have to trim some of it out. But next year we'll take that into consideration that we don't want to overdo the categories because then it just becomes redundant. So
It's better to have more and then know than not have enough.
Absolutely.
To be,
that was the goal.
to come to the decision.
Yeah, have more than we needed.
Yeah, excellent job. I mean, but just other than the calibration, Classy organizing it, John did an amazing job. Everybody did an amazing job. But I want to recognize you for taking all the time with the content,
Thank you.
and he knows his stuff. So you guys know his channel, follow his channel, keep it classy, obviously. But good to see him smile and get a little bit embarrassed because he's funny when he wants to be. Hey, you got him. So you got him smiling. Foamy, anything else you want to talk about? Anybody else you want to get on camera?
You think this was one of the best shootouts that we ever had?
I mean, I think for me personally, I felt like the differences between the LEDs and the OLEDs was so far night and day.
Yes, it was.
Than it ever has. And Classy and I were discussing this. It's like the brightness of the LEDs didn't help them at all.
No.
And I know we weren't in a sun-drenched room, but we did have some brightness happening, and they suffered there too. And we were, Rob and I were talking that just their approach to local dimming, and Classy mentioned this, really was their biggest weakness. Not just in regards to blooming, but suppressing that brightness that they should excel at. And it felt like the OLEDs were brighter, and I've never been able to say
brighter.
this. They probably were brighter.
Well, they look brighter partly because they go to pure black. So we can only see so many f-stops with the human visual
They just
system.
seem brighter. It wasn't even
They
perception.
actually are brighter.
They're
the reason
brighter.
being is the processing doesn't need to restrict the brightness like it does with local dimming.
That's right.
The local dimming is constantly pulling its capability down to try and make it not bloom.
But we also said if we did put in a really bright TV and then they would get hit on the blooming, or the contrast ratio wouldn't be there if they flex 4,000. If they could do it, but I rather see them try to do it and just try to blow it out with brightness. But I thought it was an amazing comparison. The TVs are set up beautifully.
Tomorrow, when we show the 85-inch X95L and the UX Hisense, it'll be nice to see how well they do in a larger screen size. That's where the more value and
Well,
performance
and I
comes
think
in.
now that with the S90C and the 880L and these TVs are so much more affordable at these
Yes.
smaller sizes, the only place LEDs can really live is at true value.
That's right.
Or size.
That's correct, and that's why I bring that up.
8500
Bright room.
in a bright room.
Yes, and a bright room as well.
Because but I saw the differences, but I thought it was the way you guys organized the shootout, the meetings with all you guys. I thought it ran very well. Obviously, it ran well. Just kidding.
Before Classy leaves, I have a question for Classy because this is something that we were looking at. The qd-oleds were very close, S95C and the A95L. I thought in some scenes the S95C felt like it was more accurate, in some scenes the Sony. So Classy, where did the Sony push above the Samsung
I'm going to
S95C?
publish every little detail and every
Right,
element
but this
of the
is
voting.
this is the actual scenes because the score doesn't have the scene; it's just a number. We actually saw individual parts of the scene within the scene. Where did the Sony separate itself from the S95C?
So I think 85% of the time they're neck and neck, they look identical. And then there's a couple of scenes here and there where the Samsung looked better or matched the reference better. And then there were a handful more scenes on the A95L where it was a little bit closer to the reference. So that's the difference there. But really, this is where you're trying to split hairs for that 1-2%. Once we put in the Apple TV and we put on streaming, the gap was massive.
For the A95.
Yeah,
Yes.
the A95 like on the scoring
Because
was
the processing
4s and
is so
5s
much
across the
better.
board.
So once we use real content,
So that's where it's like this event is great and it's amazing in for so many things, but for a lot of the people watching and buying, pay attention to what individual categories, because if you are
That's right.
streaming low quality, then you're going to want the Sony for that. If you're, more worried about motion, you're going to want the Sony for that.
Right.
But if you're just looking for color accuracy, they're all all those OLEDs were great. That's
Question for you. We've been talking about this. We've been talking about which TV to buy. I don't know if you know this. Classy has been struggling between two 77-inch S90C or one A95L. Did this shootout help you make your decision whether to get the Sony or the Samsung?
Yeah, and it was all of the reference content, the whole reference viewing, to me, they're interchangeable. It was only when we got to the Apple TV and I could see that clear difference with the low bit rate, I'm going to get the Sony.
So for
That-
me,
that XR processor is
me, being somebody who wanted an 85-inch LED for that new place, I'm gonna have to go with a 77-inch QD-OLED.
Yeah, and the other thing too, just to point out,
I have to. The picture quality is not close, and
It's not.
so I'm gonna have to. There's no 83-inch.
For gaming,
But
S90C,
this 85 is nice
there's
too.
nothing better. The S90C at 77 inches is ridiculous.
But we stream a lot.
yeah. And actually, streaming, people are
That's
streaming more
where
now.
Sony comes in. It would also be better for watching cable content or over the air, because the processing, the upscaling is better.
And the other-
Terrible.
Not just streaming.
But Samsung's watching.
And you
So their engineer told me they're watching the Aftershow. Samsung, streaming, you see Sony's processing, buy one and beat it.
Rip it apart.
Yeah.
Rip it apart.
And what I found most interesting is when we did the out of the box, all three OLEDs, sports, everything we put up, they looked almost identical
They
out of
sure
the
did.
box,
Even
down
the
to the
G3.
color, the brightness,
right.
all three, the G3, the S95C, the
Which is actually
A95L.
impressive for the G3. Then.
Very much
I was
so.
making a joke, like, did the three of them get together and like match
Duh,
brightness
yeah.
or something? Because they were identical.
But the thing that's really important is for those people who don't calibrate and who do stream, which they're finding more and more people are streaming now, right? The statistics say that the Sony really proved itself as you could, if you have the money and you want to spend it, and that's the set to get, right?
Well, that new XR Clear that they added this year is focused on low resolution content and low bit
And I
rate
guess that's what we're
and low bit rate.
What I thought
And
was
that
very-
was the big upgrade this year.
What I thought was
also
very
contrast
telling was
enhancement.
when we turned off the reference monitor and it was about that out of the box.
I know.
For the fact that Sony won that again,
Yes.
I would have assumed Samsung would have
Me too.
taken that.
Well, that matches what FOMO just wrote about, where he said, "Do you really need to calibrate it?"
yeah, but I mean, I would assume that's where
that answers that.
that's where we thought like a QM8 may have won if they were
Yeah.
here. But
It certainly
I don't think
validates that video you did.
It's being able, because again, these are professional people who look at
not
accurate
kidding.
displays all the time.
That's right.
So some of them were saying like they didn't even want to judge that category out of the box because it looked bad to them.
Yeah, to them, yeah.
Yeah, to them. But that's what I'm saying. Like to me, they're all basically the same brightness level.
Yeah.
In the out of the box and even after, but the colors, like they're all so similar. It really came down to the processing of the low quality content that Sony walked away with that out of the box because of the low quality content thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
Thank you.
thought it was a fantastic show.
Thank you.
And well done by everybody involved. But I mean, I thought that, and who mentioned that? I think Phil Holland had said something about Sony's approach. It's a little slower, hanging back. Maybe not taking their time. The S95C was the first TV release this year. S95B was dropped on the public unannounced last year. A95L came out last week. So while we want our TVs, we want them now. If the end result is a really good display, then I think we wait for it.
And I must say, please check out Value Electronics tonight after midnight. I'm going to put some promotions up based on this event that are going to be very aggressive. So come to Value Electronics after midnight, and I'll be posting some really aggressive promotions.
Yeah, and if you guys are around,
Oh yeah, and I'll post the results of the event. Yes, thank you. After midnight tonight.
yeah. And remember, if you're going to get a Sony display, especially the combos with their sound bars, the integration, the ecosystem, all work together. A95L's audio is awesome. Classy, great job. Thank you, bro. Really
But
appreciate
don't
it.
order one yet until I get mine, right?
No,
Otherwise,
that's right.
You don't
Oh,
get
yeah.
the guys that get hooked up, we have to wait. The full
Oh, that's
price.
right. Oh.
The guys that
Oh,
hooked up-
please don't place any more orders. I got to give them to these guys.
All right, boys.
All right, good,
All right, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody who's watching. Thank you. And call,
We
please.
still got 500. We had almost 1,000.
That's insane.
So-
Thank you. Good job,
course.
everybody. Thank you.
All right, guys. How we doing?
Brian, nice meeting you.
Are you back tomorrow?
I don't think I'm gonna make the run.
Did you have a chance to see the UX and
Thank
content?
you for turning
What'd you think?
It needs a little, I love it. I love it. He's not happy with the color.
Who was Jason? Oh, Phil Holland. Okay.
No, Phil, yeah.
Okay. But I mean, considering
It's
it,
his source material.
okay. Well, considering that it's a UX and it's not really a finished product, I think it's very impressive for what it is.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's
The question is, this one, if he still has this, or the UXL next year.
well. I will tell you that
So we have a viewer attending, and he's so impressed by the Hisense UX, he's getting it, even though the Sony X95L is here, right? So this is why they come. They want to compare the two. So, and there's a TV for everyone. So, very impressive.
So I'm telling you, if you're gonna replace the OLED, you gotta go size. And as much as
I know your philosophy.
as much as I really like the X95, I do want.
So Don, good question. They only compared 65-inch models in the 4K, and that's because it's easy to fit in the room. Consistency, and remember, the reference monitor is only 32 inches. So if you go 85, can you imagine comparing a 32-inch to 85? But tomorrow, the 85 X95L, U8K.
So
You know what? Let me turn that off.
so when what? Turn them on.
Look, I have too many microphones going again.
Okay. Let's. What's playing on? I can turn the X95 on.
That'd be great.
Let me, Robert. I'm gonna turn the X95 on for my man right here. Can you okay for this?
I'll run the Q&A. All right, guys. So hopefully, all right. Brian's showing the comparison for one of the attendees to compare the U8X with the X95L. Give me a second to adjust my microphone.
I love that guy. Why don't you tell him? I love that guy. Gentlemen, if it matters, we're going to Ben and Jack's next to the event for dinner. Bring me the receipt, please. What's paying? Please bring me the Jason, myself, John, not sure who else, but if you guys would like to, share dinner with the plebes.
Oh, well, I appreciate it, but I think we had a dinner reservation already.
See, they don't want to share dinner with the plebes. I get it. The high and mighty corporate types. We understand, we're sad.
Where did you like it?
All right. Let's double check everything. Okay. Don, to your question. What size will be in the 8K shootout tomorrow? So we really only have 3 8K TVs. We have the Z9K from last year, the QN900C from this year, and the LG Z2, but it's a 77-inch. And we'll also have nearby the 4K TV superstars of the year, Sony X95L 85-inch, and the Hisense UX. So that should be interesting. What time does coverage begin tomorrow? We're going to try to start around 11, so it's not going to be as long. So it'll be more like showing the TVs and then putting it in saturated mode, have fun, or bright mode. But it should be only a few hours, right? I mean, with so few TVs, it shouldn't take more than, I'd say, 3.5 hours. That's my guess. So yeah, it'll be much shorter tomorrow.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, Christopher, good question. Want the best experience by a good margin? Streaming sources and cable. Sony. Choose, pay the Sony tax. Exactly. Just choose the Sony that fits your budget. Right now, the budget Sony, I think the minimum Sony I would get is the Sony X90L at any size, right? Just a phenomenal TV because it has all the processing you want exactly for that. So yes. What was the ranking of processing emotion? Sony, number 1. Number 2, It depends. Motion, I would say, let me see. Hey, Classy. 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 He's busy pleasing his groupies. So I can tell you, in my opinion, the LG Motion is a step ahead of the Samsung. Image processing on the LG for low bitrate content, I like it better than the Samsung. Hey, Classy, in your opinion, just motion processing. We know Sony's number one. What's 2 and 3?
This can detect 24 hertz.
The Samsung and the LG are pretty close.
Samsung and LG pretty close?
Samsung did have this thing.
Oh, wait.
So the Samsung had this thing with certain situations where it'll be going along smooth just fine and have a slight hiccup. And then go along smooth just fine and slight hiccup. Not many people caught on to that. I did. It's a minor thing that most people won't see. The LG seemed fairly smooth, but the Sony was clearly better. Yeah, even native with all the stuff turned off. Yeah.
Hey, Vulcan. Does Value Electronics do trade-ins if you want to sell your TV and pay a small difference? Most retailers don't, and I can tell you Value Electronics does not do trade-ins, but they will work with you on Black Friday deals. Any Black Friday deal that you feel is competitive, give Robert a call. He'll either match it or give you a better bundle, but he does not do trade-ins, I can tell you that. Maybe Best Buy, but I don't think so either. Did the A95L win or not? A95L won, and it was by a close margin. So if you caught earlier in the stream, Classy described how close it was, but Sony basically won in image processing where it counted, streaming. And they won by a large enough margin that it made up the difference for anything else where they may have lost to any other TV. So keep that in mind. It's because streaming is a category this year. Now, 4 years ago, who knows who would have won? But because streaming affects many of you, and it's part of the voting this year, it put Sony over the top. But if you don't stream, then you might want to look at the scores or get on one of our live streams and ask us at that point. Okay, Jodies. Like, who watches SDR these days? You might not have a choice. Like, if I watch YouTube TV on the internal app, I'm watching SDR. Not by choice. Sometimes you're forced to, unfortunately. Michael, you, my friend, are a sage. Monday, 16K. Unfortunately, I won't be here to stream it, but I'll let you know who wins. No gaming. So the One Connect box is fine. It's gaming that you get dropouts, right? There was no issues here with the dropouts. Otherwise, yeah, I think it would have made a bigger difference.
Enjoy. Thank you. My pleasure.
Sean, you are still up. Look, he found the winner, and he's still...
Sean, what's up, baby?
Okay. At last good night. And thanks, FOMO. You the best, along with Brian, for the great show.
Thanks for hanging in there, guys.
Can't wait for the Q900C, or should we say Q900D next year?
Still asking for the Q900. It's always trying to push that.
8K videos of Tom Holland.
900C's here.
The Tom Holland's, yeah, he's still in India.
No, the 900C is here, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be. It will be. And he's waiting for that. He wants to hear Tom Holland talk about the 900C.
Yeah, so Tom films an 8K, so hearing him talk about it, and the advantages to it are, he's very interesting. I'm glad you guys got to hear a lot of those interviews today. to me, it's a big part of what FOMO and I wanted to bring to you. I'm sorry we waited until the last quarter, but we're learning on the fly.
And 500 of you here. Thank you. I mean, 500
500 after? I mean, after
at
hours?
7 p.m. I mean, you guys are great, and come with your questions. And yeah, Classy is awesome. First guy who Sean connected with, and when he was buying Q900A, and today he is a champ. You'll be surprised at how much Classy fills in the gaps, right? Everyone does their thing. Now, Dwayne was very into perfecting the BVMs, the reference models, because if those aren't perfect, the shootout's not perfect, right? But Classy, he's like hand tuning the S95C. He was most familiar with S95C by now. And he wanted to make sure it had every chance of winning. And it was so good. I remember he said, FOMO, come here. Look how good this S95C is compared to the monitor. And I was like, it might win.
Classy?
Yeah, Classy. We were in the dungeon, the calibrator's dungeon, and the A95L was out of the box. They just adjusted the white point, but they haven't adjusted the color. At that point, the S95C beat it before the calibration, of course. But we're like, this is amazing. And as we said, these TVs are now so good because, and they've all said this, LG, Samsung, Hisense, and Sony, outdoors, well, maybe less Sony, they don't need us, but they said, our reviews, collectively, Classy, Brian, myself, they sit there and take notes, seeing what we notice, what we don't. Pablo, Sony Engineering, emailed me with Rob saying, okay, we saw your stream about the Sony firmware.
So that's not what happened.
Okay.
So Rob, who I'm cool with, tried to flirt with me.
Rob Brennan of Sony.
Rob Brennan of Sony. He's like, hey, Bri, I want to come on the channel, talk about this. And he goes, so how's FOMO doing? I said, well, he's doing good. He goes, well, Pablo over here wants to kind of get a hold of him, doesn't know how to reach out to him. I said, well, I got the connect, I hook you up. But it's you're at that next level when they want to help make sure that you have the right firmware with something. Because I guess they were watching our stream and saying, well, it's still in the oven. You can't, you take it out of the oven too early. I'm like, he's got it at his house.
The A95L is still baking in the oven.
It's still baking in the oven, but we had it. So, I mean, I thought it was a great competition between them all. They looked very close in a lot of the cases. But it was, I thought it was a great night.
And Crypto has a great question. Which TV is number one for gaming? S90C for me, because I believe SDR, a lot of people do it. On the LG, I think HDR is fine, and it has HDRG that works well. But the SDR gaming on the LG, it takes a lot of tweaking, and even then, the S90C.
Yeah, and I spoke to LG a little bit about that today, and they did say that, it's for them, it's, I think, a safety issue with SDR because they think people are going to push the brightness too high on their own. So they're looking into it and going to try and change it. But for me, the S95C is the one I would go to. 144 hertz, some people love it, some people don't. But now I'm going to just say this real quick. Patrolman, Sony does not always win. Robert, how many years did LG win?
5 years in a row.
So LG won 5 years in a row.
You're not going to be here tomorrow? Okay, so come here and say goodbye, Classy. They all want to tell you how much they love you.
Great job, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are doing great with the stream. I will not be here tomorrow. I have to hit a job in DC and head home. So hopefully someone else can give Jason a hand tomorrow. All right. Yeah.
And for the claims of bias, like Patrolman that says Sony always wins, how much are they paying these people? Classy, you work with these TVs. Are you paid off by Sony? We have to get on the record.
This was volunteer entirely.
Yes, actually. And
volunteer on our dime, right? We are here.
No one's paid to be here. So.
Nope. It's out of love, guys, and we get nothing if Sony wins or loses. It really, if anything, if Hisense won, maybe I could ask for something, an extra TV, like yay, another U7K. But the reality is, Sony processing is what put it over the top.
Yeah.
They were, I would say, tied. But this year, what did we add? We added streaming.
Well,
upscaling. That was never part of the competition.
That was the big difference. But that Phil Holland had said earlier, too, guys, that there's something about the S95C being the first TV released this year and the A95L being the last TV release. So if it's 6 months of lead time, and look, sales are the S95 is gonna win in sales. But for as far as prestige, if you have an extra 7 or 8 months, let's do it. You know.
So at the end of the day, I would say it was a close tie, arguably, S95C, G3, and Sony. But if you're streaming content, motion, processing, clarity, and you know how streaming works, you don't always get the best image. Sony cleans it up. And if you don't stream, let's talk, right? I think there could be a different TV, but if you stream, like S90C, wonderful TV, Blu-ray, Kaleidoscope, high quality content, but like I noticed it on streaming, the Sony is just a little bit clearer. However, S90C is a little bit brighter, right? I mean, but what's important to the judges? Not the brightness. They're looking at the clarity. But if brightness is important to you, actually you get the G3. And I told LG that. I said, LG, you guys are winning on the brightness. They go, yeah, we made sure we hit that. Well, now they can have other things to hit next year, right?
I can't help you with that. Speakers on the floor.
I'm hitting speaker stands in. You're looking too
The next video I see, I think, put it on a freaking tape.
Send them to me. Send them.
Great point, Tech. So KG says, LCD TVs technically, or maybe the urban myth now, is that it's the brightest, and some TVs could be, right? If you're buying the Z9G, maybe the Z9K, they push that brightness at a cost.
Take care, all right?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
At a cost of contrast. So we're talking about brightness. So people are saying, well, LCD TVs are still the brightest. And I said, technically, you could get brighter like the Z9K, Z9G, but at a cost of contrast, cost of gradation, even the G3. In some scenes, it's brighter, but the cost was clipping, color details, luminance. It's like a brighter white.
It's just
OLED is as bright. Yeah, it's a useful brightness. So when you make them all usefully bright, meaning the color details they're the same brightness now. OLED is there.
Well, and I think too, FOMO, back in the day when you had a really bright LED, I don't care what it is, when it was really bright, because OLEDs were inherently dim, and their brightness was something that we thought, it was that perceptual brightness. Now they're bright.
Now they are bright.
They have better color volume, they're cleaner, they have micro contrast.
The contrast is amazing.
And they're brighter. So how do you fight that? But if you're high peak brightness, just forget about it. Just flattens the whole image out. The contrast is completely gone. And they still don't look brighter that way. They actually look like they're just bland. So it's a shame. By themselves, they're absolutely fine. Because right now we have the X95L on. It looks fantastic. But I would say the only way to compare them would be an 85-inch X95L versus a smaller OLED. So we get back into what LEDs used to beat them at with size and brightness, but not at the same size. Now more than ever, that's just not a conversation I have anymore. Which also means now that 77-inch OLEDs are bigger than 75-inch LEDs, now there's no conversation there either.
And so let's talk about
anything you want, baby.
Next year, improvements. So let me start with the broadcasting technical side. And I know you have things to say about the actual content. So on the technical side, I learned a few things. No noise cancellation. Guys, a lot of people complain that the audio is inconsistent. And it's because I enabled StreamYard's noise cancellation, not realizing.
Well, it enables on its own, so.
Yeah, and I had to disable it,
does
right?
enable on its
so I'm listening, and they're like, yeah, they're right. And then someone suggested, it's that damn noise cancellation. Wait, is that what it's doing it? Because I thought maybe it's the Wi-Fi. I mean, the wireless. I kept on adjusting, changing the frequency. And so because of you guys, thank you, I went in and disabled it, and suddenly you heard everything. Now, there was a little bit more noise, but it was worth it because the signal to noise ratio actually went up. The noise went up, but more signal came through. You guys did that, thank you. And then there were a few times when I was told, hey, contrast is off, this right. Sometime, happened again. I got the bubble. See, where is this bubble coming
knock you
from?
off, though, didn't it?
No. Well, no, it does. So this, and then we have the bubble of death, by the way.
So if you guys don't know about convention centers, even we did the one in Amway was in Kansas City. They're not Wi-Fi friendly. They're not even internet friendly. There's way too many firewalls. But you would think because of the way we do media that they'd be better. It's still hard. It's still shaky. But I wish you guys could really see the equipment he has here, the amount of work that he puts into this and running all this. And because we weren't chatting much throughout, he was stuck here typing the whole time, so I really couldn't help much. But I go, okay, continue.
Oh, yeah. So, audio. So, next year, because so the other complaint was we spoke over each other, meaning when you're talking, Caleb's talking because you don't know, but there is a panel that separates us from the judges because it's lit here with a monitor and everything.
So the golf chat that we used to do briefly, we were actually looking at the TVs. And now because we're running the stream, we couldn't see the TVs because the TVs weren't on camera. So we were actually behind an 85-inch TV. So we couldn't even give you proper context because if I stepped away, I'd have to tell FOMO what I was seeing, and he was busy typing.
And we can't hear Caleb talking, so we think he's not talking, but he actually is.
So he would start abruptly talking, and then one of the judges would say something. So he wasn't really talking to you guys, and that's what we and we knew this going in. Caleb's discussion and his chat is really for who's in the room, not for you guys, because he can't see your interaction. So, we at the end decided to
let Caleb talk to the room.
talk to the room.
And then when it's an important announcement, like the end, the scoring, because you guys don't see the images, and he's not talking to you in the way where, he's describing the images, but Brian will. So moving forward, Caleb will talk to the room without the mic, and then Brian will talk so you guys don't talk over each other. And next year, I'm going to get in-ear in-ear monitors so we can talk to each other in real time without the buffer delay of the YouTube. So, all of these issues we will address over the year, and I will test it again. Yeah. And I mean, it's a constant. So I tell you guys all the time, the little 2% improvements. In a few years, those 2 and 3% add up, and our goal is to give you the best production possible. Spare no expense, reasonably, right? I mean, I brought my Mac Mini Studio because I didn't think a MacBook would be enough. I got 3 different cameras because I had to make sure, one camera overheated, and I will never use the A7 IV. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera. I'll never use, the whole time I'm looking at this camera. I gotta turn this thing away. The A7 IV hits me again. So the A7 IV is a great camera. It could not.
Take care.
Bye, Robert.
Thanks for the ride-in.
The A7 IV is not designed for streaming 9 hours. It is simply not. It started overheating, and that's why you lost connection every now and then. So for this, just to make sure, I moved my other camera over, so now I'm using, so we have to have contingencies, extra cameras, extra batteries, everything. But I think with those,
Sony's got me out tomorrow.
so,
Thank you. Great job.
so with that in mind, just these minor improvements. Now, many of you say, what, can have higher resolution, so forth. On StreamYard, we're maxed out at 1080p. So,
And that's just for consistency. I'm sure they could push it higher, but if it's going to be choppy, it doesn't matter.
Super chat from Monster. Hi from Oz. Hello. Sorry that the S95C didn't win, but a huge thanks to FOMO Brian and Classy and Robert for a super event, more exciting than our Aussie Rules Grand Final Four, our Super Bowl yesterday. Hey, thank you for hanging out with us. We're going to wrap up soon because...
Yeah, 500 still?
I know, they're great. And we're not going to wrap up now, but maybe run another 25 minutes.
So talking about what the changes that you can talk
okay.
about what we want to implement.
And,
Let's say goodbye to Denny.
Yeah, okay, so for content, so how we're going to do it is, as Brian started, you guys really kind of want that interaction, but we also have to know where... Keep on looking at that camera. But you guys also have to know when, or we have to know when to transition between us and an actual important announcement like, hey, this is the winner, right? But I think that would be it. Otherwise, it's fun to have us kind of talk behind the scenes, but working together. And, or, worst case, Brian could do both. He could be both there, but not talking to the judges necessarily, because the judges kind of know what they're doing. So let's talk about that. Let's say you're up there and you don't see me. How does that work?
So, I mean, the challenge we had and what we wanted to change, you guys watch us together all the time, is our interaction is key. Obviously, we can't see each other, but again, Caleb is amazing at what he does. He's a master of ceremonies. That's what he's here to do. But he's here to do that again for the room. And what we found is that he doesn't like to talk while the judges are, he doesn't want to influence the judges by speaking. So he would sit there quietly, and then that would leave us with nothing to say, which is what we wanted to avoid, because the streams of the past were basically a static camera where you guys didn't hear us talk. And I can't interact with you guys. So I was, in fairness, getting very bored. I couldn't help FOMO. He was just typing and on his computer. And I'm like, oh, this sucks, man. I'm not here for that. So he basically threw the microphone. He goes, get the microphone from Caleb. And more importantly than my interaction or FOMO's interaction was getting Phil Holland to talk, getting Chirag to talk, getting Rob Brennan to talk. I wanted you to meet all the people that I talk to every year. And you have Filmmaker telling you what he thinks about HDR and 8K. And right now, his content is on an X95. It's his homemade content. I want you guys to see
8K native.
8K native.
And he's using a special computer that he jiggered together in his backyard.
He built it. But my point is being able to actually hear these guys talk instead of seeing how things are tabulated. Because I think when you think about bias with judges, it's easy to say that if you don't know who the judges are.
Yep.
If you know the judge is a filmmaker who can see the nuances of making film, it's really a big difference. But bringing you that content is what we wanted to do. We got LG to talk to you. We ended up missing Samsung. But we wanted to bring that to you the entire time. Maybe next year, if I have to step outside and talk to people, we'll do that.
And we actually considered that, how heavy are these tables, right? But let's hit some super chats real quick. They've been
Whatever you wanna
patient.
do.
Sean's still up. So,
What's up? It would've been.
how much time a qd-oled TV sustains brightness, for example? If someone watches sports for match for 5 hours continuously, is it where LED scores better? Need to change my second TV. Sean, that question can be answered by the LG G3. The G3 sustains sports brightness longer than the A95L. There is no doubt. The S95C also sustains brightness, but it's just not as bright. And the Sony, at the beginning, is as bright in vivid mode, and then about 5 minutes later it dips. So if you are looking for the brightest sports sustained, it is the G3 in standard or vivid mode. So thank you for that. And next, Super Chat Max, thank you for your patience. LG rep Sam said 83-inch MLA is considered. Now you know Samsung will hit back with 83-inch qd-oled. Exactly. I was in the back talking to Chirag. Remember I said, you guys have a 32-inch. Does that mean the mother glass is new? Can it handle the 83-inch? Maybe larger? He's like,
so FOMO, this is how FOMO rolls, right?
I trapped him.
So FOMO walks up, he's like, look. I heard the mother glass. And he goes, and he just throws it at him, and Shrog's trying to do the math, and he said, where did you come up with that math? He goes, well, I'm just saying. So FOMO's like trying to get the guys back home to be like, is that true? I don't know, we should try it. So, I mean, I guess the challenge is, with Samsung displays, they're looking at monitors, they're doing all kinds of implementation. The problem for us with 83, and I talked to both Samsung and LG, they just don't push the numbers at that size. So it's very hard to then say, put your focus on an 83-inch size that only a few of us are going to buy. So, as much as I want one really badly, it's just not the focus. 77 is the new massive size, and 65 is the new big size.
It is.
Right.
In our group, we kind of look at 65 as the minimum. And, he always talks about the big boys, 85-inch.
Well, see, a great question. So, Brave Dave, what's up, Dave? So, for me, I'm buying a second TV for my apartment/studio, which is bigger than my living room. And I was looking at 85 and something. It would have been a QN95C, a QM8, the UX. But looking at these two TVs, I'll go with because of gaming, I'll probably still go with the S95C. But the qd-oled difference is just pretty absurd at this point. And I saw it with the QN95C, which TV I love. It just could not touch it. At all.
And
they said one scene. It was brighter.
Ahmad is another one that stayed with us from the beginning.
Ahmad's like, I'm doing 2 every 20 minutes. What's up, brother?
I missed 2 of his super chats.
So how many do we miss?
You're okay. Keep on talking. I'll find Ahmad's.
So, I mean, I'm saying is that seeing the differences in the way they look, it's just very hard for me to buy an LED of any kind right now. It just is. And I love them. And I'm sure the X95L looks fantastic, but these qd-oleds are just unbelievable.
And Ahmad says TV for everyone.
$5. We missed the $5 one?
But one rules them all. And this is something that
We missed that super chat too. We missed the one before it.
and this is something that
I'm just watching what you guys are doing.
Oh, all right.
and this is something that Sony could be proud of all year long. You know, one to rule them all. It is a safe choice because most
Yeah.
people stream, and when you bring that into the equation, that's how it separates itself.
But that goes back to what Phil said about them taking a bit longer or taking their time. And then I reiterated that with Rob Brennan, who said, look, you know, they won't put something out until it's done. Where I think Samsung, if you're watching,
There's a pattern is how Sony releases those products.
yeah, he said it's always been that way. But, you know, Samsung, if you're watching, as much as we love having your content or your displays first, having an extra 6 months of
Yep.
watching and processing, I mean, it's what you end up at the end of the day. And you know, for Samsung though, the price, the value goes down. They can sell a lot cheaper. You'll sell more units, but if you want to win that prestigious award, you're gonna have to. I spend more time with it.
And Sean, just real quick, thank you. Next time, ask Kasi how you can connect. If you go to his channel, his email is in his channel for
he's-
calibration services.
Yeah, look it up right now. It should be in the description.
Yeah, so go to his
Or
about.
go to his about. It'll be in
right?
his about.
And you can knock it out. I know you probably went to bed by now, but just letting you know, I'm still looking.
Oh,
for
was it from before?
I'm just going up. I missed so many.
It's been a while. So, what do you guys think of the stream? How do you guys think we did? I know we were learning as we went.
I want to hear what they have to say, actually.
About
I'm just
what?
gonna stand behind you guys.
Sure.
So I can read.
He's just panning through the old ones.
No. What's funny is, to me, this guy's a star. You're a creator, right?
Yeah.
And he's here hanging out with us. I'm like, wait a minute. You are where we would never be. I mean, he shoots with a Red Raptor, 8K, 10K. What the
Yeah.
latest Red? Hey, Stacy, can I get this? Don't worry.
No, don't call Stacy.
But that's what Stacy.
Studio's gonna pay for
But
it.
Stacy
Studio's
was saying too. He's like, oh, I used to review TVs, and now I'm messing with these cameras. It's like, but again, you guys hear me on the channel a lot of times talking about who's the authority. You guys will tell me this influencer is the authority. This person who reviews TV is the authority. I don't know. I mean, when I talk
to people,
I've been in the space for a minute, and I don't mind. Well, no, I think the difference, at least for a lot of these display manufacturers, especially for companies like Samsung, LG, Sony, like if I see something wrong that I think can be improved upon, they will take that in earnest. And Samsung Display was here, who manufactures the qd-oled panels. When I got my earliest look at qd-oled, like before any of it was on the market, I told them that they needed to look at the pixel pattern because I could see it around the
You
text.
said you saw it from far away.
And they did actually implement change. So like next year, you're going to start seeing that trickle out. We don't get it on this year's stuff. And I don't know if it matters so much on the televisions, but for monitors, it's a huge freaking deal.
But when we're talking about somebody like you looking at it, you're looking at such a granular thing. It's versus us.
Oh,
looking
yeah,
at the
I'm
movies
super
we
anal.
like. We're
Yeah.
talking about the guy that's building it or filming it. Then I talk to the engineer, and then the guy who built it, who can't get on camera. That's what I mean about the authorities, guys. We deliver the message of what we learn from these guys, and that's what I think. We like to give credit where credit's due. I much rather. The first time I met you, my following videos referenced you.
Oh, okay.
So Phil Holland, who I met, said this. I much rather have him tell you, and then the judges are of this high criteria, or this high the things they've accomplished. That they're not just guessing and saying, I don't know, I like that one better because I like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's the way you film. It's the way you prefer color. It's how you. The guy's.
Yeah.
He's breaking down the HDR lights in the room. He's like, I got 4 steps here. That one. I mean, so this is the guy.
No, he actually measured the looks. Like, none of us, we're going to measure the looks. No, I did it. Like,
No, he's like, I'm good. He's like,
10,000 looks.
yeah, we're pretty good. So that's who you have judging. It's not just some guys you pulled off the street who's like, yeah, I mean, that would be interesting too. But that's when you look at motion.
I think there's layers to it. You got to have everything from
And
like
we have a
I'm
bunch.
very knee deep in this, and
Maybe.
I'm swimming in it. I'm swimming in it.
See, the thing is, it's like, what is it? You have to have that growth mindset.
Yeah.
HDR, if you're a creator who's been doing SDR for, let's say, 30 years, you're like, I gotta learn something new again. And it's okay, there's an audience for everyone. But you are diving into, how can I make HDR? Oh, 4,000 nits? What can I do with that? Because
it's important.
It's a tool, but you gotta want to use
What
it.
even Phil was saying too, like the what they think HDR means one thing, and what natural, vibrant, natural. These guys have their own perception of what
Actually,
that is.
I promised them that I would ask you a question so HDR is a tool.
Okay.
What is the best way to apply HDR in your content? It's more than just, ooh, curtains, let's make it bright. Storytelling, right? How do you include it in?
Well, I think if I'm filming and choosing to master in HDR, which a lot of my projects do both. You're trying to get me to sit down.
Well, you got a backpack on, but
It's only 50 pounds.
you're gonna go up a mountain.
No, it is legit 50 pounds.
Like legit, I weighed it.
No, you can try picking it up. The best I can say is most of my projects do master for SDR and HDR now, so that's been a consideration for a long while. And from my perspective, I master the SDR and HDR separately and try to give people the best experience. There's a shot I just pulled up here that's one of my favorite shots I've done recently in HDR with a super bright highlight with beautiful cloud detail, but it's not clipped, and it just rolls off to this bright cloud, but we're actually mostly looking in the shadow of the shot. And it's just one of these dynamic scenes where like it's different in SDR versus the HDR, and the HDR gives you like I hate to say it because I generally don't lean this way, it's closer to how I perceived it and how it was.
He was saying versus real life versus early HDR being like hit brightness,
Almost artificial,
here's the
right?
flame.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to just present real life to the audience. I want to provide some sort of color grade that guides it to a style, a scheme, or
It's gonna be a hard balance. Not
for me, it's more about awe-inspiring visuals that are more surreal, that kind of
look at
thing.
your work for 5 minutes, 5 seconds to know that's the case.
Well, everyone's been to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
But I've been flying through the Grand Canyon. Like I'm almost getting the bird's eye, field of view. Like, what's a bird see if they're flying through the canyon?
Well, all I see is like a hole of yellow sand.
And then you start imagining like, what if you had the ability to control how fast you fly?
Yeah, okay.
What are you looking at? I know I'm looking at things differently than birds are probably. They're probably just hunting snakes or whatever they're doing. So.
You're flying. You must be okay flying. You got used to flying crazy speeds and up and down and all over?
Well, helicopters don't typically fly stable beyond 120 knots, so we don't go too much faster than that typically. And then slow, we sometimes will be at 0 knots and let the wind guide us.
Like when you're hovering over water and you're...
If we have like a good breeze and I'm trying to get a very slow shot, we'll just let the wind guide the helicopters. So it's more about just steering as the wind's
your
pushing.
air legs are good then?
You're air sailing, kind of.
Did we ever ask you where we would find your content on mainstream streaming platforms? If they're like, we like Phil, where can we find your
Apple TV, Mac OS on the most recent stuff,
When
but
you say Apple TV,
the box. So if you're looking for Ariel, that project on the Apple TV boxes, and do buy the 4K one. I don't think they even sell the other ones anymore. And the most recent one charges with USB-C as well for the remote.
Nice.
Yeah, and then the big one is the Mac OS stuff recently. That was a big one.
So the images and macOS screensavers?
Sonoma, but there's, I think, currently a selection of 70 shots you can shuffle through, also including the space stuff and the underwater work that we've done.
HDR or SDR?
For Mac OS, everything is an SDR. But you can have your XDR display, so it can display quite bright. It is sort of a damned if you do or damned if you don't, because you're also using it as a desktop, so you don't necessarily want this thing to be neon bright in front of your face.
I got burned using Phil's screensaver. It killed my screen.
We tested both, and I think the consensus was for a desktop computer for the time being. Since the XDR display does a really nice job with color, and we are shipping it at a higher bit depth anyways, it's just like, let's keep it at SDR and keep it calm.
Say, Phil, I think of you every day. Why? Oh, your name is burned into my screen.
Yeah. So they got the results and everything? They know which one and everything? So I called that, didn't I?
You did call it.
It was close, too.
But the second place was very surprising. You know,
Yeah.
the second place, they're saying the G3 came in second.
Yeah.
Samsung or G3?
It was Samsung that was...
HDR.
Oh,
Samsung.
no.
What?
It was SDR was one, and then HDR was the other. I can't remember right now.
Overall, the G2 came in. G2. G3 is second place.
Yeah, G3 did pretty well.
So that's,
And it looks really good, except for a
you said
couple...
you saw some banding in it that.
So there were some gradients on Three Skies. We had lots of material to look at today, but every time you see something like that, you make a note. And it was odd because it was inconsistent. So sometimes it was there.
The G3 or
The G3.
Yes, it's because they couldn't show the full BT 2020. WOLED is limited to, what is it, 75%?
Yeah, yeah.
And those colors are outside of its space. You have these gaps, and there you go.
It's weird because I have LG products at home, and I think I'll probably be getting... I might get the Sony just to have...
So a question for you, Phil, though. I mean, we didn't even ask you this, but when we went into the out-of-the-box mode without calibration,
Yeah.
what did you feel about that? Did you...
That was a head turner because on the mini LED, the Samsung, I can't remember the model name off the top, QN95, actually had some magic to it. Like whatever they're doing made it much more comparable to the OLEDs. Not next to, but like it was miles away from the other two.
Toll mapping is inactive out of the box?
Q95C, I don't know.
I think it's it's a juiced mode, even in a movie. I think it's still
Yeah, I
Put it in
mean,
the best mode for all of them to look good.
well, just the more they're basically movie out of the box, but did you felt it was more LED like? It gave it a little bit more
OLED light.
it was closer to the OLED performance than it was in our side-by-side tests with the calibration and everything. You know, I think that's also the kind of power, like, there's certain themes that happen, and I know when it comes to calibration targets from the manufacturers, everyone's got something different. Sony out of the box always seems to have a certain thing, like we're even noticing on my footage is leaning a little magenta, which annoys me because
I didn't put it in there.
without getting extremely technical, globally speaking, warm colors are an interesting divide. And devices that are calibrated in different markets, you'll notice that the hue of peach, if you think about peach in your head, does peach register as a more red color or as a yellow color for you?
Okay, so peach has, no, I'm looking at peach, it's yellow with red parts. And so because there's red parts, I side with the red, but I know there's yellow there, but I'm seeing the red.
That's an interesting divide. So,
Inside, I would think more.
Oh, you're looking inside the peach.
So
wow.
You cut yours open.
Go inside. I took a bite out of it. I'm starving.
well, I was mainly referring to the color of the peach, so you actually went to the fruit, so that's good news.
Got it wrong.
Where are the YouTubers?
No.
He's like, no, I'm talking about the hue of the color. I'm like, so I'm thinking, is it a nectarine? Are we going?
Well, there's some interesting stuff. So,
That's our moment.
I don't know if your audience is like super technical or into color theory or stuff like that.
They would like to be.
They would like
Okay, so there's colors called near neutrals. Near neutrals are like really faint colors that lean almost towards pastels.
Okay.
And they're very hard for a lot of people to identify the differences between. So if you see like a really faint blue and it transitions into green, a lot of people will say, oh, it's still blue, even though there's a fair bit of green in it, and vice versa. And the same thing for like a peach, a lighter, like warm color, not super saturated, but something that's in this other space that's like, here's a common thing. If anyone has driven right at dusk when the light is gone, but it's still kind of,
So to me, it's warm, pink orange.
well, do you know how it's hard to see at that time of day?
Yes.
It's because it's a very similar sort of conundrum with the color and the contrast levels.
Yeah, that's mine. I'm keeping that.
And that's why
Yeah.
you wear bronze sunglasses, or the sunglasses that is for driving.
Some people will wear things to counteract situations like that, and that's very safe.
Those do.
It's my bag, man.
You really have those?
I do.
You would not know that unless you had those.
Yep. Well,
Those are blue blockers?
color theory.
Did you get them recently?
No, I have three types of sunglasses depending if I'm like, if I'm doing a sport where I need contrast and resolution, I have these ruby red Oakleys for high speed stuff because martial arts, whatever. If I drive, I have driving glasses which are always amber, but they're gradient, so I could see below all whatever.
Oh, everything's
And
fine,
then
yeah.
above, it's a bronze. I have it here, so you can check it out.
So
And
stream's
then-
been sponsored
and
by
if it's-
Lens Crafters.
If it's super bright, it has to be black. I mean, it's
Yeah.
to protect your eyes. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, exactly.
Just black mirrored, forget color, you just don't want to go blind. So skiing.
I think that's probably the curse that everyone shares here, because a lot of us are, we spend a fair bit of our days in dim rooms. And when you go outside, like when I do color work on these projects, I just did, when did we wrap filming? It was probably...
Oh, what did you film? If you can share that.
It was the Mac stuff, but we wrapped in February, and then we did a bunch in April. So I've been at home doing post work at the office, and
It's dark. I mean, when he says post work, it's
yeah,
not a reference, dark room, right?
yeah. So I have in my main office currently 4 displays, but during that phase I had 5, and then I tested out on other screens as well. But you're doing long hours in an office, and in my home, I have it situated where every room's a viewing condition. So I don't have, like in the room we're in right now, there's lights that we can see that will make us squint. Everything in my house is ambient, so it's light bouncing into walls or things like that. So it's all very soft and usually dim to bright, but it's never going to irritate you. But when you step outside into broad daylight after being in a dimmed color grading suite, it's a journey, because you're just like, oh, hey, there's a whole world out here, and oh, it hurts. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing that like daily.
All right.
Very cool.
Let me hit some super chats real quick.
Yeah. I'll get out of your hair. Good to see you guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Thanks. 8K.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Is this a FOMO hand reveal?
It is.
Did anyone pick up on
He
that?
got flesh colored gloves.
I know. Wait. I just realized. Wait. Where's my gloves? It's too late. Okay. We'll hit your super chats. FOMO, you and Brian make a great team. Did you guys ever consider creating a YouTube channel together? When still keeping your separate channels? Funny you should ask. We plan to do a lot more projects together, so we'll keep it at that for now. We have some super chats we missed. Kyle, looking to game on a PS5, will the Z9K look good? I think Brian can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, Z9K will look amazing. It would not be the best choice simply because it doesn't have a ton of gaming features. But if you really want a really bright LED, it's got the game bar now, but I wouldn't say that'd be
It's
the...
not on the Z9K though, is it?
It is, yeah, they updated it. So you have it, but I wouldn't say it's the best choice. You want something very bright and punchy, you're not getting anything from 8K. It's just a really expensive TV right now. So I'd rather see you go with probably an X95L.
Same effect, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just because the 8K on that TV, there's not really 8K YouTube you can watch on it. It's really just sitting there.
You get it because you want it to be bright, but then in gaming, it's not going to be the same experience.
In the local dimming on the X95 is better,
Yeah.
or if it's, the Z9K is still really expensive. So I would say I wouldn't match those together, as it wouldn't help the
Yeah.
PS5.
And Alma says Sony won using Samsung panels, yes, while Samsung Electronics came in third using Samsung panels. Samsung has to up its game no matter how the margins are. And so Samsung has to up its game if it wants to win. But if it wants to make money, that's a different discussion.
That
See,
is
Samsung is focused, Sony has a pride. So this is a different philosophy, right? I think Vizio has no pride. And yet, no,
Every video now.
I gotta bring
Dude,
it.
we talking about going with the win. He's like, Invisio, by the way, sup?
No pride, but they make more money per unit.
Yeah.
I mean, right? And whereas Sony has a lot of pride, and so they're focused very much on image quality, which we love.
Yeah. We
But
do.
Vizio per unit probably makes more money, and we don't want Sony to go there. So let's not tell Sony. And Samsung is right in between. They want impressive technology, but they know to do just enough to sell TVs as a flagship, but not spend too much to really beat out Sony.
Well, and Samsung's first to market, first TV released.
Mm-hmm.
Then they followed up with another, maybe not flagship S90C. Then they follow up with an S95C. They have 42, 53, 51, like random sizes. They have technology for 8K, not one, not two. Yeah, two. So they end up killing you with volume, and yes, they don't win the prestige award, but they do end up winning the money award. And Samsung Displays is making money hand over fist right now. But I will say they're released at a high price. They get you there, and then by the time the A95L comes out, they hit you with now the value. So it's hard to then look at the S90C. It's so hard to recommend the S95C. The S90C is so close.
Pride-wise, coming in second or third, I'm sorry, that's going to bother them quite a bit because the G3, it beat a better S95C. It's not like it came back and beat the S95B.
Right.
You know, do I think the G3 beat the S95C? I don't know. I think the S95C is excellent. So
Speaking of the G3, what about the M3? What are your thoughts on M3 LG Zero Connect? And I'll just say this. The M3 is 100% for lifestyle living. You want wireless. I mean, it's just an OLED that is partially wireless. You still have to plug in a power cable somewhere on that wall, but everything else, the I/O, input-output connections, are on a unit that wirelessly talks to the TV. To me, it's gimmicky, but apparently there is a huge demand for it based on LG's own focus group, but it's not, not our audience.
no, I mean, and like you're saying, it's all about a lifestyle. It's like the rollable OLEDs years ago. Like they charge 60 grand for one of those. They're 65 inches, just so somebody with money can watch a thing, roll up and roll down. But I think as far as it's gimmicky, we weren't super impressed when we saw it, simply because our big question, FOMO, was, well, it's got MLA. No, it does not. So if it doesn't, then how do I recommend it?
I think the 77-inch has MLA.
Not the M. The 77-inch Z had MLA.
Wow, okay, see, what do I know?
So no, because it was hidden from us in that way. But the Z series never came out, so.
And I don't ask enough questions about the M only because
they can't tell us.
It adds another, what I say, layer of failure. If you guys were complaining about the One Connect box, I can't imagine the Zero would be better. It's wireless, right? Things go wrong.
But then you're wirelessly streaming. You're wirelessly streaming. And but again, to me, I talked to LG tonight. My biggest criticism is the reduction of models. They needed a Z series. MLA should have definitely been on the C series. Had it been on the C series, it would have wiped the floor with everything because it would have been effective. It had gaming. It would have beat the S90C. But the C series kind of rested on its laurels. And then no QNED. They had two models, and then we were done talking about them for the rest of the year.
Well,
other than comparisons.
And our pre-show has gone for an hour. 450 of you still on. Ask questions.
Yeah, we're here.
See 10 people asking.
So so this is something I want to say to you guys. You got that many of you guys in the chat. We're all about the community here. Super chats are great and everything, but if you're back there just watching, say something to us. I mean, that's why we are doing the shootouts now, was really to be interactive with you guys and talk to you. For me, sitting here quietly and just watching nothing was torturous. So this is what I've been waiting all day to do. We're on how many hours now? I've been up since 4:30.
So tomorrow's 8K coverage will be.
We'll be chatting the whole time.
As we wanted it to be.
But look, FOMO and I were talking this morning, 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And we're both still going strong. We can do this all day long, as long as.
I'm running on the treadmill.
Yeah,
He's like,
I'm at the gym.
Closed.
Yeah, my gym is closed. But the fact that my point is, talking to you guys, we have energy for this all day. Sitting here watching, I run out of gas. But anything you guys got to say something. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to dinner, though, bro. You're not getting a protein shake, right?
Wait. As promised.
Did you find them? Those are glasses. Oh, aviators? Those are not cheap. Damn. All right, you're switching out the glasses.
So, as promised.
You'll see the UX and the X95 tomorrow.
These are my cool New York City.
You're looking kind of jacked,
glasses,
bro.
right?
What's going on with the gym routine?
It's that. What are the fish eye lens? If I'm on the side, I look bigger. That's why I'm always like hanging out in the corner.
Dude, we're gonna go for days, baby. We go for days.
All right. Oh wait.
Oh, we got Iceman's in the house.
Let's bring in high def.
Yeah, we got Iceman in the house too.
Iceman.
Iceman in the bottom. Right?
Oh.
Iceman in the bottom, right? What's your first
Oh,
name?
dude.
What's that?
Design,
like
the sun. With a D.
Okay, so these are our viewers. Iceman.
Iceman, you always see them in the comments. But this is the kind of
Before we wrap up, let's talk to some of our viewers. This one. I know, I got screwed up over there too. So, no, you guys are here for the shootout.
But both these guys, I'll tell you, Kev, come on, slide in.
Yeah, slide it, man.
All right, so both these guys, we talk about, for me as a creator, when these guys, we put out videos, and then I see them tweet it or retweet it, and then Iceman's always in, the sun is always in the comments. It encourages us to see the same people that, especially we have a premiere coming out, and you're like, we hope people watch, and then you're there. That encouragement keeps us going. So, I mean, for me as a creator, I really appreciate both of you a good deal. Retweeting things, it just, as a creator, it gets lonely. And when you see somebody's like, hey, but I'm here, it makes all the difference. So thank you to both you guys, but just say a little something. But I appreciate meeting both of you and just having you guys in our communities, really does. And you guys know them in the community, you guys see them as well.
Absolutely. And I want to hear, were you guys surprised? Did you guys disagree, agree about the winner being the Sony A95L, second place? Share with us your impressions of the TVs.
Absolutely. Well, since I have the mic, I'd like to thank Stop the FOMO, of course, Brian, and everyone here that put this whole 2023 TV Shootout together. This is an amazing event. I'm definitely appreciative of being here. I'm sure we all are. And I'd like to say thank you to all of you in the comment section as well, because I've talked to many of you. You've seen me behind the keyboard, but now you see my face. And some of you have been to my channel, but many of you have not. So here I am.
Talk about it. Tell them the channel. Come on,
My channel is my name, Iceman and Bob. You can see my shirt. And what I do is I keep things simple, but I'm an enthusiast calibrator, tech reviewer, and gamer. So those are the things that generally you'll see on my channel. You may just see gameplay. I like to play with my viewers in terms of gameplay. I also talk about the perspective from accuracy, but yet having the oomph and what's best for you, whether you game, whether you watch TVs, whatever it is, your price point, whatever you're looking for, that's pretty much what I do regardless of a brand, whether you see me push a brand or not. I don't have a bias. I have Sony, LG, Samsung. I've had just about every single brand in my household as well as currently. So I'm open to everything, and I just want you to have the best experience. Speaking of that, let's talk about this experience here. I definitely was shocked by the performance of the mini LEDs.
Which one? There were three of them.
There were three. Well, the Q95C did exactly what I thought it was going to do. So I wasn't surprised with that one. But the Sharp and the Hisense shocked me the most. Wow. And the reason why, with the Sharp, I was actually surprised that the Hisense in most categories put up a better fight.
It did.
It's shocking.
That was...
In the Sharp, it seemed like the brightness wouldn't shut off. It just
There's something wrong with the contrast.
I don't know why. It just didn't have the I saw it by itself. It looked much better, but I don't know.
Its firmware needs fixing. I mean, as you guys saw, it's his
that.
first TV back, 2,000 dimming zones. Doesn't know what to do with it, unfortunately. It will get better as they all do, but it did not get better fast enough for this shootout.
Yes.
But
So-
UAK
showed up, and if you're looking for it, get it. It's for it to even be here to compete with these TVs, period.
Quarter of the price.
Yes,
Quarter of the price.
quarter, and you're getting in isolation I would say 3/4. Sure, you're not going to have Sony processing or the motion to that T, but in isolation, you're getting so much of it, and going in knowing that, you know, it's a budget brand currently that's stepping its game up, knowing the price and knowing what you're getting, you cannot go wrong with that television. As for the big ones that everyone wants to know about, what about the OLEDs, the qd-oleds? Just get to the point. I'm not surprised that the A95L won King of the Shootout. It just consistently, Sony does what they do. They have so many categories that they just consistently check all the boxes with. And just perfecting that, there's a level of perfection that Sony has, and then they take it just that much more. Like even a fraction of an inch is a lot for Sony. So when you already have something that's perfect and they do that, I understand why they won. It makes a lot of sense. With that being said, and I need to stress, with that being said, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to say it one more time. With that being said, I'm aware of all the reviews, all the commentary, people that own these televisions. I see it all. I am a consumer. I'm on both sides of the community. And I like to say, the G3, for what it is right there behind the Sony. I'm going to also say the same goes with the Samsung. So many of you all look, and I understand, I have that calibrator eye, even though I'm not ISF certified. I need to stress that just so that someone You know, if you come to me, I'll do it. I'll do it, but I'm just letting you know I'm not ISF certified. However, I see both sides, and many people say, "Oh, LG sucks," or the G3 is a letdown, and Sony's the best, and we know Sony has the crown. However, if you're considering the LG, especially your use case, if you do a lot of SD content, the G3, in fact, probably can actually pull ahead of the Sony in most situations. The typical content, and even with the upscaling, it was like right there. I literally watched them, like it literally looked like they were trading blows. Like sometimes the LG will look clearer, then you would see the Sony. The Sony was more consistent on that clarity with the upscaling. However, the LG was there. And on that same sentence, Samsung was staying right in the fight. I was shocked by Samsung's ability to, it's like you get up to the top, then you kind of run out of breath a little bit, and it's like, hold on, give me a second to catch up.
It's like, I'm a 100, not a 400 sprinter.
Yes. FOMO's at the best analogy. So they're all great.
And biases. So, you know, people might not know what kind of TVs you have. Oh, he just loves Sony. TVs, favorites, fanboyism, what's your history in terms of brands? Do you have a favorite brand? Is it Sony a brand you have? Or, you know, what is your TV at home?
Ironically, I'll tell you all very quickly, I used to only buy mainly Sony TVs in terms of that quality. You know, we known about their reputation for a long time in the industry. So all I used to buy was Sony TVs. Now, I have owned everything from Insignia, which was Best Westinghouse, Hisense, like I've had from the cheap brands to the expensive.
Man. Times are hard. Do not judge.
Yeah, no judgment now. Yes, Skyward.
Skyward.
With that being said, currently I still have LG in my household. I have Samsung in my household and Sony. So I don't have a bias. They all have a look. I prefer Sony for that cinematic look, especially like in the bedroom when me and my wife and son or whatnot are watching movies and content. Prefer the Samsung, especially with gaming. It's something about that extra sauce that it gives. And then the LG is like that sweet spot. Anything you connect to it, anything you want to throw at it, PC, gaming, console, anything, sound, audio connections, you name it, the LG just does it. Like, it may not do it better than Sony, but it just does it. So, and it's more of a softer, natural look versus that cinematic look. So I don't have a bias. I really love them all. And I'm saying this because if you're considering any of these TVs, I cannot say this enough. All three of them, do not get caught up in the numbers. Please listen to what Robert Zohn said about looking at the score sheet and seeing what's for the best one for you and your use case, because they are all killing it. I'm telling you, if you see them all side by side, calibrated, especially in person, it might just change your perspective.
And I can only agree with everything you said, because this is what we've been trying to tell on the channel. Use case, but if you want the best, it's still your use case. There is no, I mean, Sony does a lot of things well, but I thought streaming put it over the top. But now, high def news. You're the man of the latest technology. Lots of news. And is this news a shocker to you? Because you will be tweeting and telling your viewers.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Sure. Okay. Why not? Yes and no. Am I surprised that Sony was amazing? No, I'm not. To be fair, up front, I'm a Sony pony. I always have been. I love Sonys. But even before that, I love Panasonic too, but that's a whole other story. I wasn't so much surprised that Sony did well. I was surprised at the large gap between qd-oled and mini LEDs.
Yes, that's and so you in a vacuum, everyone thought or thinks mini LED is great, and you put them together, turn lights on off. What was the difference though?
It's a contrast, 100%. When they're showing a nice bright scene, so we're watching SDR, we're watching especially like football, sports. The mini LEDs, they look fine. They look fine. As soon as we put on dark SDR content, the floor is so much higher with the mini LEDs, it saps all of that dynamic range.
And that's what we've always said. If you're watching sports in a bright room, don't waste your money on OLED almost, because you're not getting that advantage, right?
Exactly.
dim the lights, put in some quality,
Mhm.
HDR or SDR.
Yep.
What scenes? So, we didn't see any of the scenes. What movie, what scene really like, okay, if I watch this movie again, I gotta get an OLED.
Good question. 1917. 1917 was a huge one for me. Specifically, I'm not exactly sure where it was in the movie, but it was the soldier sleeping, and it was very dark. Yeah, very dark. And what was amazing to me, not only were the mini LEDs raised, the floor was raised, they also at the same time somehow made dark detail harder to see, which is counterintuitive. You would think that the darker blacks would make it harder. No, the darker blacks made it easier to see the shadow detail on the Sony and the LG and the Samsung. And that was the thing. It wasn't so much like one TV was better than the mini LEDs. All of the OLEDs were better than the mini LEDs.
It's that infinite contrast. I mean,
Yep.
you just described infinite contrast. There's an infinite amount of gradations between dark and slightly dark.
Mhm.
And if LCD doesn't have the infinite gradation, it ends up being one blob.
Exactly.
And that's what, but you have to have the right scene.
But I'll be honest, I came into this, and as much as I consider myself kind of knowledgeable about the subject, I'm still very much a novice compared to everyone that was here today. The amount of knowledge in this room was awe-inspiring. I still had some misconceptions about OLEDs, and I still had misconceptions about LCDs.
Hey, misconception corrected, the big one.
Big one for me? Crushing of shadows on OLEDs. I
You
still
saw 1917.
does not exist. It doesn't, as long as they're calibrated well, and even if they're not calibrated, if they're calibrated well at the box, which Sony, they did not crush shadow. And not only did they not crush the shadows, when compared to the mastering monitor, I was surprised how dark the content was on the mastering monitor, which is an LCD. And so we can show all the detail it wants, all the gradations out of black, and it chose to make it darker than even the Samsung and the Sony QD-OLEDs, which was fascinating to me. That was my biggest misconception that was just burst.
And let me explain the misconception. You saw it in a perfectly dark room.
Mm-hmm.
Had we turned on the lights, you would have said, I knew it, OLED crushing.
Yeah, probably right.
And that's
Yeah. And also if I didn't see the mastering monitor.
Yes, and then the master monitor would have been crushing too. Like,
Exactly.
They're all crushing, it's all crap.
Yep. And before I actually looked at the mastering monitor, when I was just paying attention to, because I'll be honest, sometimes my brain stopped actually looking at the mastering monitor. I was just comparing the televisions. And when I did that in the very beginning, I looked at the LCDs, and then I looked at the OLEDs, and I was like, oh, well, the OLEDs are crushing. And then when I looked at the mastering monitor, I realized they weren't crushing. They were actually raised slightly, not a lot, nothing that you would have any bother with at home. And it's the LCDs that were way beyond reference. They made it almost, I'm not gonna say unwatchable, but I mean, you're some scenes they're getting there. If you have an OLED right next to you, it becomes unwatchable.
And that's it. When you have an OLED next to a LCD, the difference is seen, but in a bright room, take the OLED away, it looks great.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
you have to have it in your viewing condition. Like if you don't watch in a dark room, then don't watch comparisons that are shot in a dark room. And that's why I always tell you, like, if you see my videos, it's all in a dark room. But the minute you turn the lights, your eyes adjust to the ambient light, and then that black crushing, you're gonna have to be in cinema home or dynamic tone mapping on. But then people will complain, oh, that's not accurate. But in your room, those things go on. Now, what TV do you have at home, and what's your setting?
Oh, so I have at home, I have a Sony OLED, and to me, I'm a purist. So not only do I go to custom, I take all the processing out. I will sometimes even disable motion processing. And I know that's a very controversial thing. Everyone has their own preference. But to me, as close as you can get to that reference, that's my personal preference. Reference is my preference. I'll put it that way. And to me, the Sony look, and like I said, I'm a little bit of a fanboy. Take it for what it's worth. It's just an ease of use with Sony too. It's like having an iPhone. You just plug it in, put it in custom, forget about it. Whereas the other, LG, Samsung, gorgeous sets still. Because to be honest, if there was a chasm between the mini LEDs and the OLEDs, there was hairs of difference between the different OLEDs. They were so similar to each other, particularly the Sony and the Samsung, in my opinion. Very similar pictures. But when it comes to there's just the ease of use, never having to think about it. Sony is the iPhone of televisions.
It is. Out of the box, Don't change it. Now I'm going to hit a super chat. Thank you, JW. What about the A80L 77-inch being in between choice of S90C, A95L with regards to the XR processor being that good? I don't think it's an in-between choice because if you're watching streaming content, internet, sources where you need that upscaling, it's either the A80L or the A95L. The S90C is amazing, but get the less expensive of the two between the S90C and the A80L if you're coming from a non-Sony. If you're coming from a Sony, I always tell Sony people, you gotta stay in the Sony family. If you're coming from a Sony, well, this is why he's still in the Sony family. It's a color, they call it color science, that is consistent along Sony's lines year after year. And you will continue to get that consistency, right? Whereas the S90C is the OLED to get if you've never had OLED, and you're like, this is OLED. You won't notice the difference in scaling because you never had a Sony before, and the way they do stuff, right? And the S90C isn't bad. G3 isn't bad when it comes to streaming. It's just the Sony is slightly better. So the XR Clear gets you that slightly better. But if you're coming from a Sony, you want the XR Clear to get you that jump from a Sony to a Sony. So what TV you're coming from, JW? Let me know. If it's a non-OLED, non-Sony, try the S90C. If it's a non-OLED Sony, get the A80L. And if it's like an A9G like me, get the A95L. So, but
I'll be honest.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. If I was going Sony, you already have a Sony, you got to stick with Sony. I was just talking actually to Iceman before about how I had iPhones, and then I made a switch to an Android, and in 3 months I took it back, and I bought full price. I bought an iPhone again because I just had a preference for it. And once you have that preference for a certain brand, sometimes it's hard to break it, particularly one that's very close to reference like Sony. I will say, though, having said that, the Samsung is so close. That S95C was so close to the A95L.
This question is for you. FOMO, does High Def News plan to switch, upgrade to the current Sony A95L? So,
It's a very good question. Yeah, that is a very good question.
What is your current Sony and what are your considerations?
Okay, so I have an A90 currently, and
okay.
and so I am thinking about upgrading. I don't know if I'm going to do the A95L because I'm so close now to CES. I'm so close to the next model year. I have FOMO. I do have a little FOMO, so I want to see what's coming around the corner. But I could see myself doing it next year.
And you'll get the discount next year as well.
That's true.
A95L just released. There is no rush.
Now, I will say, though, having said that, I did get a sneak peek of the X95L mini LED and the UX. And as much as I was bashing the mini LEDs compared to the OLEDs, when I saw them alone again, and specifically these very high-end ones with high zone counts, in a bright room, high zone counts, and very high contrast panels, they were spectacular. Even the Hisense was spectacular, the UX, and specifically, though, the X95L, I'm sorry. X95L is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And so, it depends. Yeah. I'm gonna punt.
If you're going 85-inch, it is hard because none of the 83 inches are anything like this. There's no qd-oled, there's no MLA. So yeah, you're right to punt.
A good point. If I was going, part of my process is thinking about going 85. So if I was thinking 75 or lower, I would not think twice about getting the A95L.
No,
not even think twice.
So what we're gonna do is, I was gonna wrap up. Thank you, Aram, for the super chat. Last super chat, guys. We're gonna wrap after this. We're gonna wrap to dinner. We've been out all
I
day.
am shocked you're still doing this. I really am. The amount of stamina you have is amazing.
Okay, just before you answer your question, you know that Brian and we literally work out 5 days a week, watch our diet for these type of streams. I mean, I run 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours a week in Zone 2 because it's stamina. Zone 2 is stamina, and Brian's the same.
It's like a boxer.
You have to, right? And have the energy at the end because it's not just for you guys, it's everyone here. If we have the energy, we kind of drive everyone else's energy. But yeah, thank you for noticing. Hey, Aram, thank you for the super chat. Hey, FOMO, thank you for all you do. You're welcome. I'm getting a 85-inch Hisense U7K. I'm liking that choice already. Will I be disappointed when the ambient light is gone? In full screen content, no. But as with all of the LCD TVs, if you don't have an OLED in the room, you won't know what you're missing, right? You don't know what you don't know. That's why I keep on saying, if you have an OLED anywhere in the house, you will be disappointed. But if you've never seen an OLED, you're coming from an old 6 series, right? Anything older than that, this is a phenomenal TV. And the blooming is not obvious. The U7K and the Q7, in my opinion, are the two minimum full array local dimming zones you should try. Anything lower, you will see more obvious blooming. I think you did a great choice because the size will make up the difference. For the price you're paying at the 85-inch size, what are your options? Maybe the Q7, but it would only be between those two. So, but I like the color settings and the motion settings on the U7K better, but for me, the Q7 had a slightly better contrast if you're okay with its native color. There's not much change there. And gaming on the Q7 is a bit more impactful. So good choice overall for most people. And hopefully with that, we're going to wrap up. Hey, thank you, High Def News. Are we what you expect in person? Because this is the first time I've better.
Absolutely better. Like, seriously, I'm not joking. Two of the nicest individuals I've met. Like, you don't know what someone's going to be like. You think your heroes could let you down. And these are two of my heroes. Specifically got into, no, this is a true story. Brian is the reason I got into, like, all the AV space. Because about, I want to say, like 5 years ago, I bought a television to replace a Panasonic plasma. I loved my plasma. Finally got burning, died, had to chuck it. I didn't know anything about televisions back then. And I bought a Vizio. 4K. It was relatively cheap, but I'm like, oh, it's brighter. It has local dimming. It has, I don't know if it had HDR back then, I forgot actually. But it also had 4K. So I was like, what's not to like? It's gonna blow me out of the water.
Smart TVs, future-proof?
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna blow me out of the water. It absolutely did not blow me out of the water, and it led me to so much regret. And I didn't understand any of it. I would have, knowing what I know now, I would have returned it. And basically what happened was I just lived with it. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I have to figure out what's wrong with it. I have to figure out what I don't like about it, why I don't like it, and what I can do to remedy it. So I started looking at the internet, found some individuals who I laid down the wrong conclusions, and then I finally found someone who was great, which was Brian. And Brian not only gave me great information, gave me the right information, he also gave me attention. Like, he actually answered questions. He was polite. He was very nice. And, like, he really put me on this journey that's basically where I am now. And so, to answer your question before, you guys are awesome. And like I said, hopefully someday I can be half as cool as you two.
And speaking of cool, right? Are you married?
No.
Okay, see, Brian and I are married, so no matter how cool we are, it goes to waste. This guy, now we're talking,
Well, we have
right?
to hit the bars and you have to help me out. You can be my wingman.
Well, now we're going to go out to dinner, so it'll be maybe tomorrow we would do something after. Are you coming tomorrow? I didn't know.
Sadly. I wish I could.
So, good to see you. High Def News. We're going to wrap up tonight. Hey, Brian, we're going to wrap up because we got to go to run to dinner. You know, we've gone long enough, but hey, thanks KG for keeping the insanity
That's
to a
my boy.
minimum. I know.
Love KG.
I know. Love the guy. Are you going to see us at all? Just
I'd
for.
love to. Yeah, I'm planning on it. If all things go according to plan.
Okay. Well, guys, until next time, until tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's stream, AK 85-inch Shootout, and Brian has something to say, and we'll be off.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure meeting these two gentlemen. Guys here hanging out. Check them out. Check out his channel.
Thank y'all for having me. I truly appreciate it.
And thank you guys for hanging out with us this long. And I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. You'll see more of it tomorrow the same way. But we love you guys.
And finally, today is over, and that's a wrap. Stop the FOMO.